All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Buffalo Happy Hour. What's good, Mike?
What's up, Derek?
You know, same old, right? Keeping it consistent from last week. Same old.
Extremely consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same shit, different pile.
Man, it's been a crazy week, hasn't it?
Way busier than we expected it to be, that's for sure.
Way busier than we would have expected it to be in the beginning of the podcast, like in general.
Yeah.
I am shocked with how busy we've been.
Yeah, things are stacking up. It's good.
So let's talk about the whiskey that we have here today, just as a prelude to what's coming a little bit later.
Yes.
Go for it.
So we have Iron Smoke, and it is phenomenal.
Very good.
The distillery is located in Rochester. We released the interview. It was our first interview ever, and that was an interesting experience.
Sure was. The guy was awesome. We've been
Yeah.
talking about it for a few weeks, so it's good that it's finally coming out.
For sure. I can't keep using those keywords like phenomenal for sure. I'm gonna start working on that. But anyways, so they're located in Fairport, New York, which is just outside of Rochester. Everything that they use for their products is from New York, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And the interview finally released, which was our first interview. We basically figured out how we wanted to do it, realized that we had an opportunity to increase our equipment, so we did. We got a mobile setup, which is actually helping us already.
Right.
And now we get to sit back and enjoy some amazing content and even better whiskey.
Yeah, because in the interview that just released on Friday, we're filming this on the Monday prior, so it will be releasing this Friday, which by the time this episode is released, it would have been a couple days ago.
Yeah.
We had this old equipment first because we were newbies. And then when I'm trying to get it all situated on the guy's table was like, it had to have been 2 inches thick. And this wouldn't have attached. And then I just snapped the arm, and the whole arm just wouldn't work anymore. So during the interview, you see my back because I'm turned facing the guy holding the microphone instead of having it on the table. So just so you guys know, I'm not blinding you guys and not avoiding eye contact, but that's kind of why I was doing that. So
Yeah, which is fine.
yeah.
We made it work.
Yeah, I mean, the focus is really on those interviews is on the people that we're interviewing. We didn't really want it to be on us anyway.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Really the focus on this interview, and we have a couple coming up too. So if you haven't subscribed on YouTube or any of our podcast platforms, do it now, because we have some incredible content coming up with a lot of distilleries and a lot of people just in the whiskey and spirits industry that is going to blow your socks off.
Yeah, and it's all really funny content.
It is.
Because it's all genuine conversations around whiskey.
Right. Happy hour conversations, man.
That's it.
That's how we do it. So yeah, like Mike was saying, this was in Fairport. They have a couple different products, and right now we have the straight bourbon whiskey, right? This is just the
4 grain straight.
4 grain straight. They also have a cask strength whiskey, which Mike kept calling casket because that's what the guy calls it. Because you'll figure it out in the interview that released, but he has a friend named Scully, which he really references for everything that he puts out. He continuously says, is this something Scully would approve of? And it's a fictional character, but it really keeps him on the straight path, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So everything is death-themed, kind of going off of our death theme from last episode.
Right.
This is going to be, he calls it the casket strength whiskey. And then he also has Rosie's apple pie corn whiskey and Rosie's maple bacon whiskey, which we've tried all of it. It is fantastic.
Yeah. A lot of them, they as in the owners, they use it as a pregame. So before they go out somewhere and they're just getting ready to go out, they'll sip their whiskeys, and the products were really good.
Yeah.
And I referenced it as they're pretty dangerous because you don't realize how strong it is, and you just want to keep enjoying the taste. And then lo and behold, before you even leave the house, you're halfway there.
Absolutely.
So, which brings us to our first point. One thing that we do have to add: whenever you're trying anything that we've tried, make sure you drink responsibly. We're just going to throw it in from now on for the legality of it.
Right.
But
we should actually get like a sign or something right there under the flag.
yeah,
I'm
almost
putting
like
so much under this flag. There's a clock there. It's gonna be there now.
It's
we got to
fine.
get a bigger whiteboard.
Yeah.
But we should get some sort of hashtag drink responsibly underneath that.
Yeah, something just
so
to
people know.
just to cover the base, so we don't have to keep saying it. But yeah, and then also there's no legal team as a sponsor, so hashtag not a sponsor
Right.
for
Hashtag not a sponsor. Bringing it full circle. First episode.
yeah
Love it.
for for any type of product that you want to drink. So anyways, the whiskey that we have is a sweet apple wood smoke taste, and I'm going to touch on a few things for it and about it so you guys understand. It's also mentioned in the interview, so if you guys want to go back and watch that interview, he touches on each product, but I can't remember specifically how many awards that they had and if he hit on each of them, so I'm going to make sure I touch on it now for this specific whiskey.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
For this whiskey, it's made with grains from New York, and then they use water from the Finger Lakes. They got a whiskey Bible score of 95.5, which is a massive deal because that's up against all the whiskeys from Kentucky as well. And it won... Gotta sip.
This was at the Denver International Spirit Competition too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it won... Oh, it's amazing.
It is.
They won a double gold award for this whiskey here. So, just so you guys can kind of compare it to other things that you may know of and or have tried in the past, this whiskey scored a 95.5. It beat Jim Beam Black, double barrel, aged 8 years, which that had a score of 93. It beat Pappy Van Winkle, Family Reserve, 13-year-old rye. 13 years is an extremely long time.
Right.
So to think about that...
And this is 3?
If that,
how long,
yeah.
Yeah, how long was this?
I think it's on the bottle.
Yeah.
I can check.
Okay.
It beat Booker's Aged Bourbon, Buffalo Trace Bourbon, and then it also beat Maker's Mark and Elijah Craig Bourbon. So just to give you guys some sort of an idea, this is actually going up against really steep competition, and it blew the doors off of all of them.
It's a 2-year whiskey too, so 2-year whiskey beating the 12-year that you said, that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, there was a 13-year-old rye.
13, right, yeah.
Yeah, it's just insane.
Kind of funny. You and I are on too similar of a wavelength. We both took notes prior to doing this episode, and I have the same exact ones that you have written down that you just said. They have beat, I mean, they were in first, so they beat everybody, and there were more than just the 6 that you mentioned or 5 that you mentioned.
Yeah, the list is insane.
And I have the same 5 written down.
Perfect. so that's a little segue about how good this whiskey competed against others.
Yeah. In just initial taste, again, we'll get to it later on in our segment, but the initial taste is not as nearly of a burn as I remember it.
Yeah, not at all.
It just goes on very smooth. But in fairness, you and I had the hottest whiskey ever yesterday.
We did.
And it was incredible. So that episode will be airing not this Friday, the interview, not this Friday, but I'm sorry, this coming Friday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Based off of when this one gets released, this episode.
Right, yeah. So be on the lookout for the Southern Tier Distillery episode. That is the hottest whiskey I've ever tasted in my life.
Same.
Because it came right from the barrel.
Yeah. It was a thief.
A thief. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Back to
we're getting spoiled, and we're not even 6 episodes into this.
Yeah, we're just two jamokes tasting whiskey, and everyone has been so receptive of everything because they understand the importance of what we're doing.
Which is actually a really good segue into what I brought to this episode. So there's a article circulating the interwebs, and it basically highlights if you want to start a distillery. So I highlighted a couple key points. It was a great article by Forbes, and it mentioned how many distilleries are in the U.S. now, and there's nearly 2,000. So a lot of people ask, are you going to start a distillery? Are you going to get into brewing? Like, no, I'm not. I'm just going to enjoy it and
don't count it out, though, man.
I'm not. Here's the thing. I'm not counting anything out.
We might be partnering up with some of these distilleries.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen.
Sick.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, it would be. So for nearly 2,000 U.S. distilleries churning out different distilled spirits, it is a pretty big deal now to get into. So the first question that people always ask when they want to start a business is, how much does it cost up front? Mm-hmm. And Forbes came out and came up with a general number of $200,000 to start a distillery. That'll get you a still, a building, and a license. So just an idea, if anybody wants to get into this, you're looking at $200,000 up front.
Yeah, and the thing, too, with opening a distillery, specifically brown spirits, because brown spirits age longer than vodka or some of the lighter spirits, you have to make or have some buffer time in order to have these spirits actually age.
Which this gets into.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun a little bit. But if you want to have 3-year-old whiskey, you can't sell it from now until 3 years from now, obviously, because it needs to be 3 years old. So you can continue.
Yeah, so
I gave you permission.
Oh, thank you so much, Master. Dobie's now a free elf. So
power is going to my head.
Yeah. So no, you're fine. So one thing to consider is people take a look at that sticker shock number of $200,000 and they're like, okay, how do I even come up with that? And their first thought is, let's go to a bank. Well, thinking of that, banks are reluctant to lend to craft distillers because the profit margins are really small.
Right.
Because if your product, hate to say it, doesn't taste good, people are not going to spend money and buy it.
Yeah.
The other thing to think about and look at is there's a ton of risk from a bank standpoint, which I'm sure you're all about because you're working in the financial banking industry. But that's something else to consider. So for usual stumbling blocks for starting a distillery is the licensing and regulations. Yeah. So there's a lot of states that have different laws. New York being one of the states that actually benefited the entrepreneur, has different laws in place to make it easier. However, there are still federal, state, and city regulations for a distillery. An example of something that's pretty interesting is in New Mexico, it's illegal to own a still without a distilling license, and to get that license, you must have a federal license, which you must have to own a still. So there's two laws that contradict themselves. I'll say that again. In New Mexico, it is illegal to own a still without a distilling license, and to get that license, you must have a federal license, which you must have to own a still. So that's one of the roadblocks you have to overcome in starting a distillery in New Mexico, for an example.
Well, it's New Mexico, too.
It's also New Mexico. But I'm
Every
sure
single
someone's
episode,
done
we're going to just shit on another state.
Yeah.
What was yesterday? What was last week's?
Which
I forgot.
state?
Georgia, was it?
Yeah, it was Georgia.
Everything happens in Georgia?
Everything happens in Georgia because somebody drove behind a logging truck and died.
Oh, right, yeah. Which we never ended up touching on.
Yeah,
but that's fine.
It's okay. And then for now, New Mexico, there's different laws and regulations to prevent you from even starting a distillery.
Yeah.
So anyways, this article then touches into how long until people start realizing profits. And this is kind of what you were touching on because of that gap. But the sales revenue will not cover operating costs for several years. Again, went to college. I'm doing great.
Yeah, you're doing good.
And a good rule of thumb is 10 years until you start to see real profits. So you're in it for the long haul, and it's definitely, it's pretty cutthroat because you're competing with Kentucky.
Yeah.
So an overnight success typically in this industry takes 10 years. And Tito's was an overnight success, and it took them 20 years to see profits.
Really?
Yeah. So that's something else to look at. And then they finally touched on what's something that's overlooked when you're starting a distillery, and it basically said networking. Network. It's like the three big keys for real estate too. Location. Mm-hmm. Same thing.
Absolutely.
You want to touch base with every local distillery around you, head distiller, etc., to basically figure out what you need to do in your area to start a distillery. So for those who listen to our podcast in a different state and or listen to it in Buffalo that are now even more interested in whiskey and had that idea pop up in their head while they're driving on a road listening to us talk and mumble, the biggest thing is rules and regulations, startup costs, and networking to figure out the best way and best course of action to knock it out.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And that touches on the state regulations and everything just to be able to distill. But there's even more regulations on what you can distill in order to call it a certain spirit, which we learned about this past week.
Right.
There is specific requirements that whiskey has to be comprised of in order for it to be considered whiskey, bourbon, scotch, and down the line. It's it's a heavily regulated industry, which you wouldn't have thought just coming into it.
Yeah, absolutely. You just think, well, I'm going to make whiskey.
Right. So that kind of brings us even full circle even more on support your local distilleries. We talked about this last week on how the whiskey market and the distillery market in general is so overwhelmed with the top 6 companies that when you go into a liquor store, 96 or 92% of the whiskeys are from the big 6 companies. So you going to support a local distillery in your area is really helping them out. So a company like Tommy Rotter, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, is able to now become an international product. Right. It takes a lot of time, and it comes from the support from everybody in the distillery, the spirits, and the whiskey industry to really come together, support, so these small distilleries can make it big.
Yeah. Which now in my house, I pretty much only have local distilleries.
Right. I mean, obviously from the awards that they've won, it's
It beats them anyways.
Exactly. Yeah. So you might as well go for it. And specifically on the Iron Smoke, just to kind of bring it back, the guy Tommy Burnett, which again, if you have not watched this past Friday's episode, definitely go watch it. He is a riot. He was a great time, good conversations, and we couldn't have asked for a better first guest.
Yeah.
He really takes pride in all of his work, considering he runs it by Scully every single time. So give him some love. Go to the distillery. Very friendly place. It's awesome inside. Everything in there is from 1870, I think.
Yeah.
So you walk in and it was literally this like creepy haunted house feel to it, just because it was so old and dimly lit. Yep. But it was awesome. The bartender was sick. She gave us one of her cocktail recommendations, which we'll touch on in the drop later. Yeah. Absolutely, we're continuing that going forward.
Unbelievable.
But they also, in that distillery, had a stage too, where Tommy actually performs, because he is the founding member, obviously, of the Tommy Burnett Band, who opened for some famous artists. He's been on Jimmy Fallon, partied with Post Malone, which was incredible.
Yeah.
I don't think that he actually touched on that in the interview that we had with him, but he told us beforehand, and that's just awesome that this dude was partying with Post Malone.
Yeah, so his friend is super close with Jimmy Fallon.
Mm-hmm.
They're legitimately friends, like you and I are.
Yeah.
And then when Post Malone was on his most recent tour, he obviously performed in New York City, and he got the invite to go hang out with what his friend said, just come hang out with my friend,
right.
Not realizing what he was walking into. And then, lo and behold, he's inside of Jimmy Fallon's dwelling, and Post Malone's on the other side of the room just hanging out. And he goes, how am I here? This is absolutely insane.
Right.
Just give me some whiskey with some speed bumps.
Yeah, with some speed bumps, exactly.
So
yeah, it's a really, really good interview. So definitely go and watch it.
Yeah.
And go visit that place too, because it's just incredible.
Yeah.
It's kind of in a weird location, so if you're going there, you definitely have to go around the warehouse and come back through a parking lot, and it's pretty far back. So if you're driving there, definitely keep an eye out in front of you, and you'll see it. But it's a little hidden, but it's worth it to go there, because
that and there's signs everywhere that kind of direct
you,
like, hey, just go around the building and or just keep driving straight through this parking lot, and then lo and behold, you literally drive into it.
Yeah.
So
exactly. So we'll touch on the ratings and what we give it later on, but that'll probably conclude our segment of talking on this, unless you have more to talk about.
No.
Yeah, later on we'll do the cocktails and the ratings, but really, if you want to know more about it, listen to the episode that was just released on Friday, because you'll hear more than you would ever think to know about this. So
for sure.
But yeah, it's awesome. So really, we touched on a little bit earlier in the episode about our last week. So do you want to give a little bit more of input on what our last week entailed, or what your specific last week entailed? What happened last week? What's going on, man?
Well, I was consistently hungry throughout the week, so that was new.
That's solid.
Yeah, I was literally starving.
That's new? I'm starving every day.
That's true.
Yeah.
So here's what's been going on. You and I have been really trying hard to stay healthy, and this podcast is essentially quadrupling the amount of whiskey that we would normally consume in a year. So we're slamming amazing whiskey down, and it's at times causing us to make not so great decisions when it comes to diet and or exercise, because now that it's fall, which is my favorite season of the year by far, I just want to take a nap, and I still have to go to work and do all these things, and I can't.
Yeah, well, that also, you and I have been super busy. I mean, we record this every week, and we've been having interviews every single week, too. So that's 2 days that I keep telling myself I can go to the gym those days, and oh boy, it didn't happen. Oh well.
Yeah, because we're serious about this podcast, so we want to maintain it, and it's just funny that we go back and forth about, I'm gonna have a salad today.
What's the craziest thing you've eaten this past week?
Pizza and wings.
Nice.
For sure.
Yeah.
But
we went to a Halloween party, which we can talk about.
Yeah.
And on the way home, it was like 1. I've been having these really late nights recently when I'm normally in bed about 9:30.
Right.
But we went to this Halloween party downtown at the Statler, which was sick. Everyone was dressed up to the nines. So last year we went to a bar crawl in East Aurora, and everybody dressed up, but it was shoddy work. Like, they weren't putting their all into it. Whereas the Statler party, everybody went nuts, and it was so cool.
Yeah,
if you go to the Instagram and you look at my Instagram, you can see the pictures from it. It was incredible. And on the way home, it was like 1 o'clock, and we got Mighty Taco. So not the best decision of my life, but when you're in Buffalo and you're a little bit buzzed, you got to have some Mighty Taco. because we didn't drink responsibly, but we got an Uber home because that is important.
That's right.
And you never drive drunk.
Ever.
Or buzzed.
Or buzzed, yep. Or drowsy.
Or drowsy. There you go.
Don't drive drowsy, which is also a crime in New York.
I actually got in my first accident because I was sleeping at the wheel.
How many years ago was this?
It was in 2010, 12.
So either way, it's above
like
7
10
years
ago. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Statute of limitations, we're good.
Yeah, there you go.
Just thinking about all the things.
Yeah. Also, last week you talked about how you started drinking alcohol at like 9. So,
listen.
Statute of limitations, we're good.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Did I specify what day of the week it was?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because if it's Saturday, Sunday, it's fair game.
Is it?
100%.
Is that New York law?
No, it's my law because I only work Monday through Friday.
This is getting faster, bro.
I know. You better change that battery.
Yeah, I know.
So anyways, week recap.
Yeah, go for it, please.
So, one of my buddies that I served with, who I'm extremely close with, his wife works at Southern Tier. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, I'm half kidding, but is there a way that I can come down and collaborate with you and focus on your products that are, spirits instead of the beer, and then bring more attention to that aspect of your business? To which she replied, absolutely, of course. I said, perfect. So the four of us, because we brought the women.
We sure did.
They
had a blast, too,
They
by
did.
the way.
It was good.
Yeah,
so if you don't know, there's a new hashtag that you may or may not have seen in our posts since we went there, but we have the BAH Housewives.
Yep.
Because they're the Buffalo Happy Hour Housewives.
Exactly.
And I know personally that Colleen doesn't want that discussed, but she's secretly thrilled that she's considered a housewife.
Absolutely. Gina just kept saying, I would be so good at that role. I'm like, what role? It's not a role. You just can't. But hey, man, they're loving it.
Yep.
So they will be on TV soon.
That's right. Happy wife, happy life.
Exactly.
So for the collaboration with Southern Tier, the whole fam bam jumped in my truck. We drove down there.
Fam bam.
And we walked in the door and were instantly hit with the aromas, and then realized when they said it's a working facility, they weren't kidding.
Yeah.
So as soon as you walk in, you get hit with the aromas of the products that they're making. There's a tasting bar, which the Forbes article touched on. That's one way to generate revenue. And then for the business owner aspect, you typically can get away with marking it up higher because it's literally made right there.
Right.
And then it's saving you distribution fees and whatever else. Yeah. So there's a bunch of craziness.
The middleman.
Yeah, it cuts out the middleman. So another thing, we went there and directly helped them in their business, with our own money, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm all about it. I'm sorry. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to cut it out. For the trolls out there counting, that's one this episode, and then I said for sure twice. But anyways.
No one's keeping track, Mark.
Yeah. So we get down there, and we waited for one of the owners, Ross, who gave us a tour, and he's amazing.
Yeah.
Super down to earth. Really, really cool guy.
He's hilarious.
He is hilarious. He's right up our alley.
Yeah.
And unbelievably humble and down to earth, which, again, right down our alley.
Right.
Because he wants all the attention away from him and on the product, which I think is honestly the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
Because their products are really good. So we did the tour, walked around, asked a bunch of questions, and then we had multiple tastings. There were 3 flights of whiskey. We did the podcast interview, and he brought in a skull of a deer of an 8-point that he got, and it was just us having a ride around the table.
Right.
Obviously, the wives were next to us watching the whole thing unfold, sipping their own whiskey and cocktails and having fun.
And that is easily the best backdrop we will ever have in a video.
Yeah.
That was sick.
The bar is set really high from here on out because people are going to see that and be like, okay, so these guys are legit. Yeah. And we're like, well, let's tone it down.
Yeah, let's tone it down.
We're still working on it.
And the owner also said he had no idea that this was happening today, like about 12 times. Which was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely pushed for the interview.
He was a riot.
I pushed for the interview, but I'm glad we did. It was good.
So we also talk about that in the episode, or in the interview, and we will next week when we do the episode. But really go there and figure out how to get to the distillery, because it's tucked back behind the brewery.
Yeah.
And a lot of the traffic gets directed to the brewery because they're so well known.
Yep.
Whereas if you just go a little bit further, as he says, a 9 iron away from the brewery, it is right on your right. and it is an awesome facility, and they do tours all the time, and if you do a tour, you get a discount on your drinks.
Yep.
It's just a great time. So definitely go and check that out too.
Absolutely. And the atmosphere was great, and the place was really clean.
Yeah.
Really clean, which is good to see, because sometimes as a quote unquote, what they were saying, a working facility,
right,
it's tough because you're doing 17 different things at once, and then to keep it clean and or slightly organized is crazy when you got semis coming in for all the different product that's getting dropped off.
Right.
Each bag is like 2,000 pounds, all this craziness. Everything was immaculate. It was organized, stored, put away, and they were just waiting for the aging process on some of their products, and basically just to keep on rolling.
Yeah. And when we did the interview too, we had it in the actual distillery, like where they're doing all the product. So we went back behind the tasting room into the warehouse, basically, that they were doing everything in.
Yeah.
So in the episode, you might hear some echoes because we're in such a large place, but it was an incredible experience. We got a tour of the whole place, and it was just incredible.
Yeah. He's a mastermind.
Yeah,
because he did everything himself. He's a master welder, essentially, and he made it work.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. So this past week, I got someone for jury duty.
Did you really?
Yeah. Come home to see that in my mail.
I mean,
what's the first thing you think of when you hear jury duty?
How to get out of it?
Well,
but then the second thing, but then honestly,
isn't that funny that the rumors still go around that if you go like into the jury duty and you're like, yeah, I'm really racist, they're gonna be like, yeah, you can go. It's like that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
People use that line so much. You can't just go in and say you're racist and hope that you're not gonna get called.
Absolutely.
Are you kidding?
I got summoned once.
Really?
And the guy that was leading it started asking me specific questions because they pulled me in the back room, and they basically had us split up into groups. We were split up into groups. I was like the B group or whatever, and someone in the A group who went in first mentioned that he was military. So a guy walked out and goes, "Is there anyone in this room that's currently in the service or ever was in the service?" And me and 3 other people raised our hands, and he goes, "Okay, follow me," and then he dismissed us.
Oh, really?
Because it was a direct whatever relation to the case, and then we got excused. So I'm like, well, I mean, that's just luck, because otherwise there's nothing to stop me from being a juror.
Right.
I'd actually be into it.
Me too. I'm really excited to do it. Like Stanley from The Office, and that's kind of what I was getting at. And then you threw out the "how to get out of it, man." Like the first thing that I think of whenever I think of jury duty is the Scranton Strangler. And I hope to God there's a Buffalo Strangler out there, and I'm going to be on that case, because I would never live that down. That would be on the top of my resume from here on out.
Except the Buffalo Strangler wouldn't actually kill anyone, or did you want them, like, would you want someone to just be dead in Buffalo then? Or?
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. So I would like it to be a theoretical Buffalo Strangler that he left his marks on someone and then they lived. How about that? A happy ending.
There we go.
Because this episode we're going to be lighter than last one.
Yeah, the last episode was literally themed death.
Yeah, themed death. For sure.
So we'll just, Scully, we'll keep it lighthearted.
Yeah, so like that, I am excited for it, because just like Stanley says on The Office, you get to sit in an air-conditioned room, they might bring you lunch, it's a good time.
And
so
he doesn't have to be around all of them.
Exactly. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. I do hope. So today was the first day of it, and I didn't get called because my number was a little higher.
Okay.
So I got to check tonight, which I should have probably checked before we started doing the podcast. But I have to check tonight to see if I'm called for tomorrow. And it's going to go on all week. But I hope I go. If I do, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of what's going on there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The Scranton Strangler, man. I'm hoping for it.
Who's
your least favorite character on The Office?
Toby's actually tied for top.
Really?
Yeah. He's hilarious.
Your favorite is Toby. Because
which is surprising because most people hate him.
Yeah.
My least favorite is, I honestly like Will Ferrell when he came in, and then just because that was annoying, there was no reason to ever get rid of.
Not at all.
Yeah, and then who was the guy that he's in? He was the creepy guy with the long hair. I can't think of his name because I'm already half a glass in.
The long hair.
Yeah, he replaced Michael Scott in The Office.
Oh, Andy Bernard.
No, not Andy.
Oh,
he was the guy in charge.
Yeah, Robert California.
Yeah.
Robert
you don't
California.
like him? Not really,
Dude, he's awesome. I love him.
Yeah, but when I look at the entire show,
true.
It wasn't neat. Like, probably the funniest thing was when he's skinny dipped.
Yeah.
And then, otherwise, I don't.
Yeah, I like it when he goes
out
on the fucking Lizard King too. That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
But have you seen other shows with him in it? The Blacklist is one of my favorite shows, and he's the main character in there.
Yeah.
I think James Spader is a mastermind. I love him.
He is. I've seen.
I don't know what Cleo's doing upstairs. She's body slamming someone, and we're the only ones in the house, so I'm not 100% sure.
I really hope that's heard because that was hilarious.
Yeah.
It sounded like someone was coming through the floor.
Yeah, she's just like suplexing the ground. Hopefully she can break through here because we have the stairs blocked off, so she won't come down here. But yeah, she's doing something up there.
I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the I've seen him in Blacklist. Blacklist is a phenomenal show.
It is.
I'm not going to take away his performance in that. Just in The Office, it was just awkward.
See, my least favorite character is Kelly. I think that she is so awkward, which is her character, which is what she's supposed to be like in there. Why are you grinning? This is making me so...
Because I find her hilarious.
Do you really?
She's so annoying.
Oh my god, I can't stand her. Every time she talks, and it's just, it makes me cringe. Because I just can't stand her. But other than that, I mean... I saw this post a little bit ago that showed all the worst players in The Office, and obviously one of them was the warehouse worker that was going to hit Pam or something like that. Remember him?
Yeah.
The big dude. I don't like Roy at all either. And Aaron's brother. Do you remember him? Where
Aaron's brother.
Yeah, when Andy went down to Florida to go pick Aaron up, and she was just chilling with her brother on the couch or something like that.
Yes.
And he was just super awkward, like touching her leg and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird character.
Yeah.
And then the guy that obviously tried to hit on Pam when her and Jim were fighting.
Well, that's because we're tied up in their relationship, and we're like,
sure.
Everyone needs to stay away from both of them.
They're
Let
doing
them
a
live.
podcast too. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they want us on, I mean, we're available. But
I will definitely pay for those flights.
Yeah,
if
for
we're
sure.
on a podcast with them, I will probably flip out. And if we don't bring the BAH Housewives,
Right,
they'd probably
kill us.
leave us. Yeah. So
But then we might have Angela and Pam
on the show.
No, it's Housewives.
Listen,
I'm just kidding.
listen. Don't throw that much hope in the universe because
Yeah,
who knows what's gonna happen.
seriously.
Well, anyways, yeah.
That'd be cool. But yeah, they do have a podcast. I haven't listened yet. It just started, I think, like a couple days ago.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah, so that'd be pretty cool. If they want to have us on, I mean, they're probably subscribers already, so they can just hit us up in the DMs and we'll get there.
100%. I'm not worried.
All right.
So, do you want to touch on cocktails?
Yeah. Do you want to drop the beat?
No.
Cocktails.
I hate everything about that.
We have to have some sort of breakup, you know?
There's something.
So it's there, dude.
Yeah.
We can keep going because I have an endless amount of beats.
We'll talk about it offline. For some reason, you
got
just
this.
keep doing it.
Yeah, dude. It's going to be like, we're going to record a voice clip and it's just going to be the beatbox the whole duration of the episode. And we'll see how many subscribers we lose.
Well, there's only 42 lose,
true,
so probably
it's true,
all of
it's
them
true.
in a matter of seconds.
Probably. But that's fine because
Yeah.
we needed something to introduce this segment because this is an awesome segment.
It is.
We've talked about it, and all joking aside, this is our segue to get people interested into whiskey.
Yeah.
So it really is an important segment, and let us know. Do you like the beatboxing or do you not? Because clearly this table's divided right down the middle. So
It doesn't matter, man. We're just going to do
I'm
it.
just messing with you.
No, I love
All
it.
right, so go for your recommendation here.
So, in previous episodes, I talked about the first ever cocktail that I had, and it turned me off of whiskey. So now I'm going to sit here and tell you to have that cocktail with this whiskey because this whiskey is phenomenal.
Right.
So the Manhattan is my recommendation for this whiskey, and the recipe is 2 ounces of bourbon. It would be this bourbon. 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, 2 dashes of bitters, and a cherry for garnish. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
When was the first time you had it? Can you remind everybody?
It was my grandpa's, and he let me try a sip of it, and I couldn't stand it.
Do you remember what kind of whiskey he used?
No. I was young, very young. So,
Above the legal limit, though.
yeah, we'll say
And it was
that.
a Saturday.
Yeah, we'll say that. Above the legal age of 18, and definitely on a Saturday.
Yeah. So we have, again, the interview that just released on Friday. We asked all of our guests, too, on the podcast to name their favorite cocktail too.
Yes.
That way you get more of a dynamic rather than just us two jabronis talking about our favorite cocktails.
Right.
And the consensus is old fashioned's everyone's favorite. So if you haven't tried an old fashioned, go try an old fashioned because it's fantastic. And they have their own take on an old fashioned called their Peacemaker. It is at their distillery where they have their bar and everything too. And the bartender behind the counter, she was the bar manager.
Yep.
And we asked her, just because we were sitting there waiting for the guy who we were interviewing, Tommy, we asked her what her favorite cocktail is. And she said the Peacemaker. So the Peacemaker is, they didn't give the actual ounces for this, but you can do just like you said for a Manhattan, it's probably going to be 1.5 to 2 ounces of bourbon. And then just kind of to taste after that. But what it is they do Iron Smoke Bourbon Whiskey, which is what we have here. Then they do Rosie's Apple Pie Whiskey, which did we talk about? Yeah, we did talk about everything that they offer.
Yeah, in the beginning.
So Iron Smoke Bourbon Whiskey, Rosie's Apple Pie Whiskey, which is fantastic again.
Yep.
They brought us a tray of these shots, and it was to die for. It really snuck up on you. And then dash of bitters and an orange peel. So we're bringing out the fruit rinds again, and you can burn them if you want, if you're fancy like I am. But the the orange peel to really top that off. So that was her recommendation. Now my recommendation, when I was looking at their website, we want to tie in their whiskey as much as possible to our cocktail selections. But you can have any whiskey or bourbon with our suggestions that we're putting out. But they have this drink called the Left, Right, Center, which is 1.5 ounces of Iron Smoke straight bourbon, which is, again, what we have. 0.75 ounces, getting real into those decimal places, of lemon juice. So be specific, 0.75 ounces. 0.5 ounces of the Rosie's Apple Pie. Again, we're incorporating this apple pie whiskey into this. And then finally topping it off with 0.5 ounces of honey syrup. You put that in a shaker and you just shake the hell out of it. All of our cocktails are shaken, not stirred. Just for clarification, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure all yours have been so far. So you put it in there, you shake it up, and then you top it with some freshly grated cinnamon. So you're really throwing a ton of these flavors into one, and it's fantastic. We had it while we were there. It's just incredible. Everything that this distillery puts out is off the wall.
Yeah.
And it's a great take on whiskey, especially incorporating this apple pie whiskey in there too. It just really plays with your palate, and it goes down very smooth.
Everything is super smooth.
Yeah. So that's our cocktails. We won't do the drop again, but that's our ending of the cocktails. I think I overused my beatbox privileges for today. We'll talk next week.
Yeah, we'll talk next week.
I'll have to come up with something completely different because that was probably one of my better drops. If we're looking at only a couple
honestly,
seconds.
we can just keep it, record it, and then we can just add it during editing.
You have to get my facial expressions in there when I do it because I really try to close the air going into the pop filter. That way it comes out,
Yeah.
Because if you go or you go, it sounds different,
Was that your way of educating me, but also just doing it
Absolutely,
one more time?
because I wanted to do it a couple more times.
Outstanding. So, getting back to the whiskey, this is amazing.
Gosh.
So I poured more because I'm out, and what I did was I topped off, and then Derek's playing with the cork, all about it, and I put in 3 drops of the non-homogeneous leaf lock leaf, some special water. So I'll let you touch on what it actually is again.
Reverse osmosis distilled water with hemlock leaf.
Nailed it. Yeah, exactly what I just said.
Basically, since we're already a couple episodes into doing this, I'll recap. So this process is known for just putting a couple drops into your whiskey to really separate the whiskey, the flavor profile from the body of the whiskey. So this is meant to draw out a lot of flavors so you can get the true essence of the whiskey, and it will change the flavor profile. So you don't need something as scientific as this, which is the non-homogeneous, homogeneous leaf water, like you so properly put it. But you can do it with just any water. Just know that it'll obviously taste a little bit different than what we're having right here.
For sure.
But this came directly from Black Button, and it does change the flavor profile of the whiskey itself.
Yeah, it's amazing. So while we have the drops in, let's do our rating.
Okay.
And then we'll cap it off with a little bit of Bills talk on a losing Bills week.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Which we can touch on. We're actually too busy to really hammer the Bills game because we were working for the podcast, which honestly worked out in our favor anyways. But we'll touch on that. So for the rating, label and branding. How do you think?
So we've been pretty consistent with labeling an A+ check mark for the distilleries that have a cool label, but also a cool story behind it.
I think they're also up there with that.
That's also up there, and I absolutely love the fact that he incorporated Scully on this label.
Yeah.
You will hear, if you listen to the last Friday's episode, we keep harping on it because you should listen to it. His talk about Scully is off the wall.
It is, but I almost said the P word, but I stopped myself from saying it.
Phenomenal, man.
I'm not saying it. Yeah. So anyways.
If you would have said it, it would have been ferocious.
Yeah, your fake word. It's really cool from a business owner, entrepreneur mindset and aspect to have something to keep your moral compass straight and on the right track. So to have something to lean on, even as a fictional character that's involved in the actual branding and then the decor throughout the distillery was really cool and unique. So I think it definitely deserves an A+ check mark for that.
So what did we label as the top? Because we've been very varying on what our labels actually mean, because that's the whole point of this. I mean, this isn't meant to be a scientific method for our A+ check marks, because if it is, we're screwed.
Correct.
Because we have no idea what any of this means. So don't ask us what a A+ check mark means, because we don't even know.
Yeah, the whole point is just to bring attention to them,
correct.
And then we're doing this as a comedic value. Yeah. But I would say the top tier is an A+ check mark for label branding, and then for a nose, an A++ would be top tier.
Okay. Let's do an A++. So this is the top tier for the label, because I like this label better than the others.
Okay, so
do you agree with that?
Yeah. Okay. So A++ would be top tier.
Okay.
So that would be basically like, I'm not even going to compare it to something because it's our own brand. Yeah. So we're doing A++ for their label and branding.
Okay. So for the nose.
Yes.
For the nose. We got to find out a better way to say this, because every single time I introduce this, it's always talking about your nose, which can be misconstrued as something else.
Right. Do you want to explain it before we give it a rating?
Yeah. So the nose basically is just the initial smell that you're getting when you dig your schnauzer into the top of the glass. So these types of glasses too, it's called the Glen glass, and we talk about it in our first episode, basically on the design of this. But what it is it's a thicker body at the bottom to allow the whiskey to set, and then the aromas come up through a more narrow top to it. That way, the smells go directly into your nose rather than around your face.
For the audio listeners only, it's shaped like a pear.
Okay, I could see it with a little base on the end of it.
Yeah, and it's so picture a pear, and then picture a base on the bottom of that pear that the pear would sit on, and that's what you would physically hold.
A thick pear, though. 2 C's, bro.
100%.
Real thick pear.
Yeah. So good. All I want to do is start screaming "Yerp" for all my buddies downstate. So, anyways, so it's a pear-shaped glass, and it allows you to enjoy the whiskey in its truest form. Mm-hmm. So, for the nose rating, where would you put it?
I would probably put it on par with the Black Button.
Me too.
So
I'd put
an
A+ check mark.
Yeah. All right, and then the initial taste. What are you putting it at?
Smooth.
It's so smooth.
So smooth.
Just like those beatbox skills.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. So I do get the oak. The oak is pertinent, and I do get the apple.
Yeah.
It's not a ton of apple, but there's a little bit in there.
Yeah. So I would probably actually rate the initial taste more in line with the Tommy Rotter, which is an A+.
Yeah.
It didn't have the incredible... I mean, it did, but again, we're comparing it to the other ones. It's not a knock on the current one that we're having or the lowest rating one. It's just to more take into account the better smells that we're getting. So for me, from my perspective, I would say an A+, because it's on par with the Tommy Rotter, but not nearly as hit you in the face like the Black Button collaboration was.
I agree.
The Black Button collaboration, which was last week's episode, was incredible.
Yeah.
So I would put this as an A+.
Solid.
Ending notes. Well, how is it hitting the back of your tongue? Where all those taste buds are.
There's almost no burn for this one. So what I mean by that is there's a burn to let you realize, okay, yes, I'm still drinking a bourbon. Yeah. I'm still enjoying whiskey. I'm sitting here, and that's the drink I'm having. But it's not overpowering. It doesn't feel like you just took a massive chunk of horseradish. through your nasal cavity.
The horse, right? But if you start chewing it, it might.
I did chew it.
Did you?
Yeah, and it's still...
It didn't hit you?
Yeah, it's not horrible. I mean, it's a really nice, well-crafted bourbon.
Wow, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it really doesn't have...
The collaboration knocked you on your ass.
It did. It
As
made
soon as
me
you
want to
started
put
chewing
somebody
it-
through a table. Like, straight Bill's Mafia. I'm suplexing you into it.
Yeah.
But this is just really This is really good, just like Tommy Rotter American whiskey after work.
Mm-hmm.
Come home, sip it, and relax. And that actually hits on Tommy's point. That's the intent of the whiskey.
Yeah.
So that's
Tommy
really what he
from
wanted
Iron
for it.
Smoke, not Tommy Rotter.
Correct.
The
yeah.
Tommy Rotter guy wasn't an actual guy.
Correct.
I mean, he was a guy. We talked with him, but his
but his name wasn't
Rotter.
Tommy. Yeah.
He's not an actual guy at all. He doesn't exist.
So final rating.
All right, are we sticking with our new method?
Yes. We're going to go on 3.
All right. 1. Hold on. Let me give
you're
you a
good.
second.
You're good. You're good. I'll just put the glass down instead of just being a raging alcoholic on my side of the table.
Try it again, Mike. Try another sip. Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
93.
Look at that.
Dude, we're on... Look at that.
Nailed
no decimal.
it.
No decimal.
No decimal. Damn it. All right. 93.33. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
we agreed on the 93, so we'll do 93.
Perfect.
Again, this isn't meant to be a serious rating scale. It is in some instances, because I don't know why I just shouted right there. It is.
Because you're into it, man.
Yeah, I am into it. I'm freaking juiced, man. This is meant to be a rating scale on what you and I thought of the overall whiskey and how we would rate it, because I genuinely would think that the collaboration was the best one that I personally had out of this group.
Same.
But it's not meant to be this is the one that you need to do because we're whiskey connoisseurs, and we're definitely whiskey sommeliers that went to school for this, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, we weren't going for criminal justice, we were going for whiskey tasting.
For 4 years.
Yeah, for 4 years.
Not at all.
So our ratings are, you can take them with a grain of salt. We liked the collaboration the best so far, but all these are fantastic. Obviously, they're all in the 90s. I don't know if I've ever had a whiskey that's a local whiskey that is in the 80s at all.
No, they're really...
You can
not.
label, like, I mean, Jack Daniels, maybe I would put it in the 80s, just because I'm not a huge fan of the bland taste
all
that Jack
day long.
Daniels
I
had.
would put Green Label Jack Daniels at an upper 80s. I'd put it like 88, 89.
Yeah.
And then these are just way smoother.
Yeah.
There's honestly just more into the product.
Yeah.
It's the old school method of doing it. They're not cutting any corners, and it's really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
that's where I'd put
And
it.
if you want to know where to buy this stuff, I mean, we talked about their location earlier in the episode, but go back and watch Friday's episode. He talks about in which different states they're in, too.
Yeah, they're in
so
multiple
if you're
states.
not local to Buffalo, I know that we have some listeners outside of New York.
Yep.
So listen to that episode so you can figure out where you can buy this stuff. It is truly amazing. So
Absolutely. And then for locals, it is in all major liquor stores. I did see it in Outlet Liquor in Cheektowaga.
Yeah.
And then I did see it in Hamburg as well. So it's out there.
I'm pretty sure it's in Pennsylvania, and we don't really like Philadelphia.
No.
I'm so pissed.
I know.
That was a planned segue for me.
Was it?
Well, while you were talking, I'm like, how can I make a segue into the Buffalo Bills talk? Because I just want to see your face get red because you're fuming because of this.
Yeah, we'll touch on the Bills.
Yeah.
So we have 11 minutes left. So that's a good amount of time.
Infinite amount of time left.
We do because we're business owners.
We're business owners. We do what we want.
So for the Bills, they lost against the Eagles. All right. I watched highlights.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not pleased. I think that we could have played better. And I think that the play calls on the offensive side were not what they should have been. Taking into consideration the amount of times we threw the ball, there was really no need. Like, we have a future Hall of Fame running back, and then we have Motor Singletary, who is an absolute animal.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
He had 3 touches in the second half, which is completely uncalled for. Unless, I mean, granted, again, we're not in the front office. I don't know what they're thinking, what their adjustments are. I don't break down the X's and O's with, McDermott or anybody. I mean, it's really just an outside perspective on the Bills, and I think that including Singletary more maybe would have helped. And the defensive side had absolutely no answer for any type of screen or the running game.
He had 3 touches in the first half, you said?
No, he had
the whole
0.
game.
He had 3 touches in the second half.
Yeah,
he had nothing in the first half.
Full game. I have written down here, and this is what I really wanted to drive home, is I don't understand why we threw it so much. Allen had an insane amount of attempts. He had like 36 attempts, I think it was.
Yeah.
His completion percentage was 16 for 36, which is a 47% passer rating, or 40% completion rating.
Right.
Which you're giving a rookie quarterback 36 attempts to throw the ball in a game that it was mad windy here. I don't know if you remember yesterday. It was disgustingly windy here.
Yeah.
And it was rainy too.
Yep.
You're setting this guy up to fail. It's like when, what was it, the Tennessee game where the Tennessee coach trotted their kicker that already missed 14 field goals out to attempt a 56-yarder. You're putting him up to fail.
He is, and I'm not going to touch too much on the Titans because my boy in South Carolina who listens to this podcast...
Was he not receptive of it?
He's a diehard Titans fan, so I don't want to lose him as a support aspect. So I'm going to let him,
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, but I agree. I mean, the weather
you're setting
was
him up
definitely
to fail. Combined, you said that Singletary had 3 carries the whole game. Gore had 9 carries the whole game. They've rushed combined for 12 carries the whole game. The other 8, because there were 20 total runs in the game, the other 8 were Allen. So you're putting the ball in his hands for like 100% of the game. Total, it was 20% of the plays were runs with running backs.
Yep.
So the other 80, you're making our rookie quarterback who's trying to develop handle the ball. That's just a bad mix of like the offensive play calling on my perspective.
I agree.
And it was just ridiculous. The thing that I do want to touch on, though, again, this is the second straight week where Allen didn't throw an interception, which is incredible for him.
Yeah, it's good.
He needs to make better decisions, and he has been in these last 2 weeks.
Right.
He's not doing the hero ball like we talked about with New England, because that was atrocious. Or ferocious, as I like to say.
Ferocious, there you go.
He had 0 interceptions, which was fantastic. He had 3 fumbles. One of them was actually recovered by Philly.
That was the thing that I wanted to touch on. So as he ran, not even, during sacks, the ball would slip out of his hands because of the weather.
Right.
Like, it's not, there's so many things that go into it. So just play it safe, gain yards, and then from an Allen perspective, take what the defense is giving you and just make the play. Like, it's fine. Well,
I didn't do any research on how many catches Singletary and Gore had for, like, dump-offs.
I know Singletary had a touchdown on the screen, and that was phenomenal.
But
I'm sorry for saying the word. It was great.
Phenomenal.
It was great.
It was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. Allen did have 2 touchdowns, though. I mean, if you're sitting here critiquing Allen on his performance yesterday, it's really hard to continue critiquing him when he performed the best that I think he could have, not watching the game, just being a Monday morning quarterback, looking back at it and seeing that he threw for a couple hundred or like 200 yards or 175 yards or something like that with 2 touchdowns when Carson Wentz did the exact same thing. And it was funny because I just saw an article today that I said last week that he was a Carson Wentz kind of like protege, I guess. Like, he'll grow up to be Carson Wentz. And the Philly coach said the same thing. So, not absolutely. Saying I'm right, but I'm right.
Right. Yeah. Am I right or am I right? Yeah. The thing that I'm
not salty about it, don't worry.
Yeah. Right. The thing that I'm most upset about is, as a whole, I really just want the Bills to have a 300-yard game.
When was the last time you did one? Fitz was quarterback?
Hold on, because I think it was Randy Orton. No, I'm sorry, Randy Orton. Yeah, let's talk about the WWE. Good Lord. Dude, how many glasses
I think Hulk Hogan definitely had a 300
Hulk Hogan
game.
had the last 300 game. No, who was the Uncle Rico? Uncle Rico was the last 300-yard game that we've had. He's the last Bills quarterback.
Wasn't his name Randy Orton?
No, it was Kyle Orton?
Something Orton, yeah.
Oh, dude.
Tom?
Dude, this is going to blow. This is really upsetting me.
Jimmy?
No, it wasn't Jimmy. I think Kyle Orton?
Braden? I don't know. I'm just throwing out names now. But was that the last? Because I don't even know when that was. We haven't had a 300-yard quarterback in years.
Either way, it was Orton.
Kyle Orton. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was the last Buffalo Bill quarterback to have a 300-yard game, which is extremely annoying. We've gotten close, and let me put a disclaimer out there, asterisk, it's within regulation.
Right.
So
not overtime, yeah.
Yeah, because Tyrod did it, but that was in overtime. Mm-hmm. So I'm not counting that. It's literally only regulation. The last time we did it was with Kyle Orton, and the thing that bothers me the most is Drew Brees is out for a thumb, comes back and throws 3 touchdowns and 347 yards, and then leads his team to victory. And we're over here trying to figure out how to run the ball or throw the ball. It's like, dude, if we have our defense, even they didn't play a great game against the Eagles, but they're great. I mean, we have a really good defense, and it's really frustrating that we're not capitalizing on the opportunities that we have. But looking forward, because this is what Bills fans do, is we stay optimistic. And I'm not pissed we lost against the Eagles. It was just a great opportunity to get 3 games ahead because the Raiders lost to the Houston Texans, which shout out to Clemson because there was like 40 former Clemson players on that field.
J.J. Watt's out though now.
J.J. Watt is out for a torn pec. So looking forward, we have... Dude, the amount of draft picks that we have moving forward, it's ridiculous because Bean is a mastermind, and we have, no joke, $90 million in salary cap to keep people.
Yeah.
So, looking ahead, we're in great shape. And we're still 2 games ahead. So, we're still in the playoff picture with that loss.
Easy,
it's just really frustrating that we lost that game.
Yeah, because that's a game that we should have won.
Yeah, time for more whiskey.
So, talking about cap space, because that is $90 million, like you said. What are your thoughts on us potentially signing a player before the trade deadline?
It depends on the position. Do I think we need to
What would you be comfortable with signing a position?
O.J. Howard.
Really?
I am not okay with going after A.J. Green, who's injury prone, inconsistent, because we've tried that with the last administration where we had a number 1 wide receiver with Sammy Watkins. And
dude, Kelvin Benjamin was a beast.
But remember... And this is coming from a Clemson fan. He's injury prone. So now it's the same thing. He'll play for a week. He'll play great. And then he's out for 3 weeks because he has turf toe or whatever it is. Yeah. And then he comes back and he plays inconsistent or he plays fine. And then he has a breakout game. Then he's out. So for the Bills, like, we don't need... That doesn't excite me, getting a number 1 wide receiver. We have Duke. We have Beasley. We have Foster. We have Brown. We have the wide receivers. We just have to execute the play.
Yeah.
It comes down to the individuals. And... if we get a knockout athletic tight end like O.J. Howard, the Bucs don't know how to use him.
Right.
I think that our front office would know, and our coaching staff would actually know how to use O.J. Howard. The dude was an animal in college. Yeah. If we use him in the right scheme, I mean, it's limitless, and it would definitely help because right now we're rotating 2 tight ends.
So are you not excited about Knox?
I love Knox, but at the same time, we have Croft, who's injured, and we don't even know what he does yet.
Yeah. We have 4 tight ends right now. One of them has to go. Between Lee Smith and Croft, one of them has to go.
Yeah, and then Smith had a ton of injuries, but he's also a tackle.
Yeah, but he's also getting penalties all over the place.
That's what I'm saying. So he's constantly having penalties, which... when you do compare the Bills to the Patriots, if you commit penalties with the Patriots, you don't play.
Right.
You're taken off the field. So when you have a guy like Lee Smith who constantly commits penalties, it's like, why are you even on the field when you're only hurting an already hurt offense? We can't even barely move the ball. Yeah. So it's just frustrating. But
I think
O.J. Howard would excite me. What about you?
I think that we either need to bring in someone on the offensive line. Allen is getting blown up every play still.
I agree. We need a right tackle. I agree.
Right tackle. Or even, I don't even know what Cody Ford plays anymore because he's all over the place sometimes.
Yeah.
But we need him to have some help. I think left tackle, too, he's been getting a lot of pressure from. So one of the tackles, we need more help on there.
Yeah.
Allen can't rely on his legs all the time. I want him to develop as a pocket passer, and our offensive line isn't getting it done.
Right.
The other thing, too, I'm kind of torn on the wide receiver. I don't want one because I want us to save money for when we have to pay Trey White and we have to pay Micah Hyde and we have to pay Jordan Poyer because we're having some contracts come up. And Jerry Hughes. We have contracts coming up
that are on 1-year leases
need to be paid.
Yeah.
And if we bring in a stud wide receiver, I saw a rumor today that we're looking at Deandre Hopkins. Yeah, okay.
Seriously.
I would love DeAndre Hopkins. Don't get me wrong. The dude is an animal. But that's like saying, Bills are going to bring in Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
It's like, it's not going to happen.
Right.
We don't have the money for it. And if we do, we're going to be sacrificing our defense, which is the only thing that's keeping us in the game.
I don't know why they would let go of D-Hop, though.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
He's Watson's safety valve and everything else.
Yeah.
And they have injury issues, too.
Yeah.
Like, Will Fuller isn't playing. Kiki Kuti, I don't believe is playing, and they just have him and Kenny Stills on the outside. That's it.
Yeah.
who's from Miami, which you know how that goes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I think that next week will be different. We need, in my opinion, we need to win next week, not because of our record, but for our team's morale. We need to win next week. And next week is a winnable game.
It's dude, it's the Redskins. Yeah. It's extremely winnable. Mind you, they still have AP.
Yeah.
So
and
going up
Geis
against...
is practicing too.
Who?
Their stellar rookie running back that came out 2 years ago, but he's destroyed every ligament in his knee known to man.
What's his last name?
Darius Geis.
Oh, that's right.
He's a tank.
Yeah, that
and
dude's
if he's
an animal.
healthy, that's going to be a little bit challenging. But again, that's nothing that we can't do. We've faced stellar running backs, and we've dealt with them.
Yeah.
I just don't understand what happened last week with Howard and Miles Sanders. They're not top-tier running backs like Saquon or Mixon or Lev Bell when we faced him.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be giving up this many yards, and hopefully next week with AP and Geis, we can hold them down.
We'll see we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
It's tough. We wanted that game against Philly. We really wanted that game.
Yeah.
So, either way, 5-2 is not bad. So,
yeah.
Right, 5-2?
Yeah, 5-2.
Yeah, 5-2. So,
we have the same record as the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So we're doing okay.
Yep.
Chiefs have 0 defense. And the Pats are just out there running roughshod with 8-0. So
frustrating.
we just
Same with the Niners, dude. The Niners are insane.
Yeah, they are. Which is crazy because they don't have a very stellar offense either. They're decent. They have an insane running game because their offensive coach and their head coach is run-minded. But what do you think about us having a majority of our coaching staff being defensive-minded? Is it taking away our offensive abilities?
No, I don't think so because we still move the ball.
I'm grilling you like you work for the Bills.
I know. Yeah. I don't think it does because we still move the ball. Yeah. We just don't always close, which it's frustrating because the Niners close.
Yeah.
And they find ways to get the ball back. Their defense scores, their special team scores. Same with the Patriots. Yeah. They block things on special teams. Like, that's a third of the game.
Yeah.
So figure it out.
The Patriots, so from a fantasy football perspective, the Patriots defense is only down points-wise to like 7 players in the NFL. So, like, it goes, and for all you that play fantasy sports, it, like, in the top 8, I'm not 100% sure if this is 100% accurate, but I know it's relatively accurate. So, you have, like, Christian McCaffrey up there. You have the star players up there. And then you have the Patriots defense as a whole scoring more points than 90% of the fantasy football players, which is ridiculous from a fantasy standpoint because defenses don't get you anything. You're lucky if they get you, like, 10 or 13 points.
Yeah.
But the Patriots have gotten like 29 points, and they've been winning weeks for people that play fantasy football, and it's aggravating. Unless, I have them on one of my leagues, so I'm pretty happy with them. Which is the sole reason why I'm undefeated in one of my fantasy leagues. But you don't play fantasy, do you?
No, I can't.
Why?
I get too emotionally invested, and then I just want to I flip out. My heart cannot take fantasy.
But
because I live for football, and it's so much added stress and anxiety that I just can't do it anymore. I did it for one season, and I realized I can't. My blood pressure's through the roof.
Yeah.
So, I just watch football. I enjoy football. I love fall. I love having a fire, sipping whiskey. It's not
going
fantasy.
Camping.
Yeah, go camping. Go hunt.
So Gina literally texted me before we started this podcast, 5 minutes before we started this podcast, and she said, "You're not going to get me to go camping." So we knew it. They were going to text us before we even talked to them about it because I did not talk to her about this.
Yeah. And I'm sure Colleen is gonna, as soon as I walk in the door, she'll be like, "So we have to talk." Like, first of all, what are we gonna talk about?
First of all,
if she lays down, okay, we can figure out camping. Then I know we're going somewhere. But if she goes, "I'm not going camping," I'm gonna be absolutely demoralized.
Yeah, then you and I are just gonna go.
Yeah, which is fine.
Get a bros week going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for next week, because I'm gonna hold us to this, okay, which means we got to work this week.
All right.
We have some leeway. It's our own show. We can do whatever we want.
Right.
But next week is the Southern Tier episode.
Okay.
And I kind of want to do this I know that one of your friends necessarily stated that he likes getting a preview of what's coming up.
Yeah.
So next week we have Southern Tier, which is going to be a fantastic episode. And again, another interview, which is what we just went to go see.
Yep.
We also have a new addition to the stationery here, if you get what I'm saying.
Send it.
So we are going to have a new table.
Yes.
Which is going to be huge.
Yes.
And it's courtesy of Southern Tier.
Yes.
We need it for this episode.
We do.
Is that possible? We are going to do some dimensions today, and we're going to figure it out. and I will be at your house every single night until we get it done.
It's really not that much work.
Yeah, no.
It's just, you know what might hinder that is getting the glass.
Oh, yeah, true.
For the actual tabletop.
So if it comes to that, we can honestly grab something and put it over the top of them.
Yeah, I just want it to be legit.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. But it wouldn't be a Buffalo style something if it doesn't have some hindrance of success.
That's true. So just for the viewers, just know that there's a lot of work being done, behind the scenes of having our logo, having a new table, changing things up just to make it better for you guys, so that when you guys watch us, you're not staring at what we're looking at, which isn't bad, but at the same time there's always room for improvement. Right. So we just want to make it better for everybody, so even for us. So that's what we got in the works. We're doing everything we can, and we're working really hard. And remember, this isn't our full-time thing. Right. I mean, we still have full-time jobs, and we still have lives and houses to take care of, and dogs to take care of, and women to take care of. Yeah. So there's a lot. But just remember, we're doing everything we can for the boys. All right?
Yeah, for sure.
For you guys.
And the girls.
Yeah, and the housewives of BHH. Yeah, for you.
And boys who identify as women. And the other way around. We got to cover all bases.
All bases. For all those who, they're trapped in the wrong body, just know, do less, God bless. Do
less, God bless.
That's it.
And you touched on it too. We got a new logo, which is awesome.
We do have a new logo. We haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah, Tom Kavanagh Design. Search him on Instagram. I'm out, dude.
I'm out too.
I'll just
we'll do water because I got to drive.
We're also like an hour and 10 minutes into this, but we do have a new logo. Tom Kavanagh Design. Follow him on Instagram. Let him know. He does amazing work, especially around the Buffalo area and surrounding areas. Go give him a follow. Let him know if you need any designs done. That's displayed on all of our social media. So Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, we're the Buffalo Happy Hour 12. I actually messaged the person that has Buffalo Happy Hour regular. So I can be like, yo, man, like, what's good? Like, you have 3 followers. We have 4. So can we take it from you?
That's what I'm talking about.
So I did shoot him a message, or her a message, I don't know. And no response. So we probably won't get that. But right now, we're Buffalo Happy Hour 12. I'm amped right now.
Love
Buffalo Happy Hour 12 on Instagram. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Buffalo Happy Hour. Go give us a follow on all those platforms. On YouTube, go give us a subscribe. Leave us a like and a comment. Let us know what you would like to see on a future episode. We are going to maybe transition into some vodka, rums, gins. We're not experts on those, but we're also not experts on these. So
that's right.
We'll see.
That's right.
We do want to highlight some of the distilleries that don't feature whiskey products.
Yep.
But yeah, so give us a subscribe on YouTube. We would really appreciate it. Any place that you get your podcast to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Cleo's barking, she's into it, she's a subscriber. And yeah, that's really it. I mean, everything is going to be coming out from here on out, and we got some great interviews here. So definitely subscribe so you don't miss anything.
Absolutely.
This has been episode
5
of the Buffalo Happy Hour. Would you have thought that we would be on a month and a week?
No.
And
but here we are.
I was scheduling some stuff and writing some stuff down on my calendar. We're booked solid with episodes until the middle of December.
That's what I'm talking about. That's for the viewers, all right? That's for all your support.
We got so much stuff coming at you. It is disgusting. And we have a online famous distillery that we're going to be doing that they sent us a bottle for free.
Yeah.
That we're going to be doing soon.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be after the Southern Tier. For all of you listening, it is going to be Screwball, the peanut butter whiskey coming out soon.
Very exciting. Little teaser.
It is going to be insane. So really subscribe. Give us all the love that you want. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what we're doing wrong in a private message so we don't get blasted on
we need the negativity vibes in the DM.
Yeah. But yeah, so this has been episode 5 of the Buffalo Happy Hour.
All right, Derek. I'll see you soon.
All right, that's it. Have a good day, everyone. And remember, drink responsibly.